Time now to review another game in the Magic Knight series of adventure games. This is the second one in the Magic Knight trilogy, although the third Magic Knight game overall, and the game is called Knight-Tyme. This one's got quite an interesting cover. It's kind of a combination of two eras of Mastertronic packaging. Obviously you've got the Knight-Tyme logo there. This is in the later Mastertronic packaging with the white bar up the left hand side. But the artwork is definitely more in keeping with the MAD packaging from the first wave of MAD releases in 1985, with the sort of comic book style artwork with vibrant colours and speech bubbles and so on. So an interesting combination there, and actually I believe this was released on the MAD branding on some of the other computers like the MSX and Spectrum, so that might explain that. Spine's just got the Knight-Tyme text on there, and the back cover has got some screenshots, of course, lots of them, which are quite difficult to make out, but it's basically very similar screenshots to the Spellbound, which was the first of the Magic Knight adventure games. As it says there, this is the third game of the series of adventures featuring Magic Knight, but we don't count Finders Keepers as one of the Magic Knight trilogy. And he's found himself transported to the 25th century and on board the starship USS Pisces, and it's got the enhanced windimation system first used in Spellbound. Could this be the end for Magic Knight? Well, since there's another one in the Magic Knight trilogy, probably not. So the instructions, as you can see there, it says, after releasing Gimbal the Wizard from self-inflicted whiteout spell in Spellbound, Magic Knight has been catapulted through time to the future. So this is a follow-up, direct follow-up to the events in Spellbound. There's a bit of blurb there and something to do with the data cube. I'll read it later in detail. So it's got the windimation, which is kind of like an early point and click mechanism, which players of Spellbound will be familiar with. I am familiar with it. And it's got the controls and the keys, and it's got a few hints, and it's got the loading instructions, and that's about all. It's fit it nicely onto one page. The other side of the inlay has just got the controls and loading instructions in German, French and Italian. So here's the title screen of Knight-Tyme, and it's very fitting for the system that it originated from, the Spectrum. So it's not very spectacular, it's just some text. Choose keyboard or joystick. By moving the joystick up and down you can look at the instructions and play the game, and below there it says Knight-Tyme, a new graphic adventure by David Jones and Paul Freeman. David Jones being the chap who did the original Spectrum version, Paul Freeman being the guy who did the conversion. And as you can see, it's copyright 1986. So we'll have a quick look at the instructions. So basically just filling you in on the plot line, which is a continuation of the plot from Spellbound, as it says there. Then it's got a really almost unreadable screen with brown text on a blue background that has the keyboard controls, which I'm not using, and it says who the characters are and that the game features Windimation Plus, and that's it. So let's get on and play the game. So you begin the game in the transporter room, which is presumably that you left Spellbound via some form of transporter and arrived here. As you can see, you can move left and right with the joystick, push up to jump, you can also jump in diagonals. A couple of changes from Spellbound that are immediately obvious is that Magic Knight walks a hell of a lot more slowly, which is really annoying. He plods along. You can move along the screens much faster by just doing a diagonal jump. And the other thing is they seem to have put a sort of a black border around him to make him more defined in front of the objects that he walks in front of. Other than that, it's pretty similar. The other thing that's noticeable is there's no music. Spellbound had music from Rob Hubbard. There is music in this, but you have to activate it by doing this. So you press fire for the menu, and if you have a look at what you've already got, or wear or unwear an object is probably the best way to do it actually, and wear, and you can see that you are equipped with a personal stereo, and if you wear that and execute, then you get music. The music this time is not done by Rob Hubbard, it's done by David Whittaker, who usually does a very good Commodore 64 tune, but I'm actually not very impressed with this one. I'll leave it playing for a little while, but I'll probably switch it off eventually. So just having a little wander around, there's some kind of control station, the bridge if you like of the spaceship. There's also the transputer room and something else there, cargo hold and so on. What you might have noticed on the first room is there's a couple of robots who look suspiciously similar to a certain character from a certain popular science fiction film. So let's take a look at them. So at any point you can examine things that are in the room, and that might be an object, character, yourself, or indeed the spaceship in this case. So I'm going to examine a character, and it says there's nobody in the room. Interesting. Oh, they've both vanished. Okay, here's one of them. So let's try that again. Examine a character, and you can see there's two characters here. Clink, which is the robot, and Darby 4, which is actually the computer. We'll come back to that later. So Clink, if you execute, much like Spellbound, it gives you some stats, strength, happiness, stamina, etc. Tells you what Clink is. Nothing much more to do there. Let's just go and find the other one. It should have gone this way somewhere. There he is. Rather blended into the background. Although there is no colour clash spectrum style. They have managed to get some definition between the different colours. So if we examine... Oh, no, I don't want to command him, but let's just do that anyway now. Right, so basically the other robot who's vanished again now, they do kind of move from room to room rather rapidly, but they're never animated, they just vanish. So sorry, let's try and examine a character, S3E3. And as you can see there at the bottom it says S3E3 has a famous cousin. Wonder who that could be. So much like the predecessor Spellbound, the idea of the game is to complete the game by moving from one flick screen to another and picking things up, examining objects, using the objects to interact with one another and so on and so forth. But it's pretty hard to work out what the hell you're supposed to do to start with. There are characters around that you can interact with as well, and there is a bit of platforming to do. You can jump up and down and stuff. So there's an object here which we'll pick up. So pick up an object, pick up the Starfleet manual. So I'm carrying that, and if I then read something, Starfleet manual, then actually the Starfleet manual tells you exactly what the instructions told you, just in case you didn't read them before you started the game. And it's got the keys and all the characters and stuff just like the instructions, so I will drop that because that seems pretty useless. There's other things to pick up, but I can't quite reach them for some reason, so we'll come back to that later. And I'm getting a bit annoyed with the music now, so I'm going to switch that off because it's making my ears hurt. So if I unwear the... You see I'm actually wearing other things as well at the moment. I've got a shield and a cloak of invisibility. But for now I'll just unwear the personal stereo, which turns the music off and gives me a bit of peace. So the graphics are quite nice. They are just Spectrum graphics, but the animation of Magic Knight is quite cute, and it is a cute character. And other objects are pretty obvious what they're doing. So I'm back in the transputer room. You can see there's a fish on the floor there. I'm not really worried about that at the moment. I want to talk to Darby 4, who is the computer. So if I click help, this is the computer that's actually allowed you to stay on the ship, as you can see from there. And there you go, from time to time you'll be able to give you advice. At the moment the only help I can give you is this blank ID card, which you'll have to get authorised. And a piece of plastic card has fallen from the slot in the transputer. It says register your ID here. So pick that up. And what I found so far is it's rather tricky to work out how to complete this ID card. If I ask the transputer for help again, he will tell me you've got to stick your photo on the ID card so that the non-electronic crew will take notice of it, and he's fixed it so it'll be quite an important Starfleet official. Get my words out eventually. So somehow I've got to take a photograph. Now you may have noticed when I went to this room over to the left here that there is a camera there, so that's going to prove quite useful, hopefully. So once again, it's got this Windimation interface, which is kind of like an early point and click. The one thing that's particularly annoying about it, just as in Spellbound, is that you have to confirm every command that you want to execute, which seems a bit like overkill, just as I said last time around, because you basically can't really do any damage, as far as I can tell, by activating a command that you didn't actually mean to do. So there's 2 crew members here. So let's take a look at them first. So there's 2 crew members, Gordon and Sarab. Gordon is at the helm control. And Sarab is deputy helmsman. And one thing you can do also is take objects from other characters, just like in Spellbound. So let's see what we can take from various people. What's Clint got? He's got a laser. He doesn't want to give me that. So Sarab's got a Muk tablet food. So I've got that. We'll have a look at that in a moment. See if Gordon's got anything for me. Instant film. That will prove very useful with that camera. So I've got 5 items now. Let's just take a look at that Muk tablet. See what that's all about. Oh, you can read it. I haven't read anything yet. Let's do that. Read the Muk tablet. The label reads, Muk tablet condensed meals are a complete nutrient course in one handy tablet, and there's a picture of a clown. Maybe that will come in useful later on. There's another character appeared now. Let's just talk to that character. I don't know what Sharon is exactly, some kind of wibbly alien thing. Let's see if Sharon will give me any help. Sharon hears a voice and ignores it. I think that means no then. It is a bit strange how none of the other characters actually move it with any kind of animation. They just sort of gradually move across the rooms from one room to another without actually moving as you see them on the screen, which is a little bit strange, but there you go. So I've got most of the constituent parts to take a photograph now, but what I'm not really sure is how I take a photograph. So let's try wearing the camera. Okay, so I can wear the camera. What else would be useful? I don't really know. So back in the transporter room, I've picked up a mirror now, which is object number 5. Suddenly I've got this list of objects across the top there. I'm not quite sure why they've suddenly appeared, but maybe I can use some of them in conjunction with one another. I don't really know. There's not really a command on this menu that obviously says you can use this object with another object, because what I really want to do now is take a photograph of myself, which you would think using the mirror and the camera would be the sort of best combination, but how do you command Magic Knight to actually do that? It's a little bit confusing. So let's try reading the mirror. Nothing to read. Maybe I can command Sharon to help now. No. Maybe I should give her the camera. So I want to do unwear the camera. Oh, my hands are full. Right, you can only carry 5 items as well, just to make things even more annoying. So drop something. So let's drop the personal stereo. It's hard work, this game, I've got to be honest. I'm not a fan. I think it's very nicely put together in terms of graphics, and the user interface is quite clever, but it's really hard work and really slow going. I don't want to wear any of these things unless I can wear the mirror. No. So I wanted to unwear the camera. So I've got all these items and I don't know how to make them work with one another. Let's try giving the camera to Sharon. There she is, if she indeed is a she. So if I give the instant film to Sharon, she doesn't want it. That's not a good start either. And my patience is already worn thin here. I'm just not getting how you're supposed to achieve anything in this game. What's this we've got here? Oh, firstly I'm going to have to drop something. Let's drop the... I'll drop the mirror for now. And whatever this is, let's pick it up. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I've picked up a wrist terminal. Let's have a look at the wrist terminal. Okay, there's a message here. It says Hooper's asteroid transporter coordinates are X1, Y8, Z4. Okay, let's go and try that with the transporter then. Nearly there. Okay, so stand on the transporter and you get an extra option on the menu then to use the transporter. 184 for the coordinates, so 1, 8, 4, execute command. Something's happening. The transporter is broken. Game over. The transporter has malfunctioned and spread your atoms across the cosmos in the shape of a butterfly. What a pretty way to die. How annoying is that? I mean, give you some coordinates and then there's no warning that it's broken. You just use it and get killed straight away, and that's it. That's basically game over. So on that note, I'm going to call it a day. I think I just don't understand these games. I can't get my head around how to do the sort of interaction with all the objects and stuff like that. It's just slow going and really rather boring. I like the concept of it, I like the character, I just find the actual game really tedious. So I'm going to say not worth $1.99 for me, although if you're a fan of the flick screen arcade adventures that were so popular in the late 80s on the home computers, then you will probably like it, but for me that's enough.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
2, 1, 0.